you very much. Prayer to Motherland. Thank you so much. It's day 2. And we also, like yesterday, have a very colorful program. And I'd like to start by introducing some of the dignitaries in here at this moment. We would extend it as we receive more, but for this opening for day 2, I'd like to very warmly welcome and recognize the Chairman, Board of Governor, Chairman, Board of Governor for IOD Center for Corporate Governance, and that is Mr. UK Eke, MFR, FCIOD. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you for leading this. We'd also like to recognize Dr. Armstrong Takang. He's the Chief Executive Officer of MOFI and co-chair for the National Summit. Please put your hands together for him. We'd also have a very distinguished personality, Mrs. Utra Okwana. She is the Chief Executive Officer and President of ICSAN, another fantastic contributor to this process as co-chair. We also have Mr. Femi Aweyemi. He is the MNI. He is the founder of ProShare Nigeria. Please put your hands together. He shall be moderating this session today, and an extremely passionate and committed contributor to the progress of the Institute. We'd also recognize Dr. Mrs. Rekia Yusuf. She is the Director of Payment System Supervision at the Central Bank of Nigeria, and today she would be representing in this discussion the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Philip Ikeazo, Deputy Governor in charge of Economic Policy at CBN. We'd also like to recognize another very distinguished personality, Mr. Oludare Thompson, the former Managing Director of NICOM, and eminent personality in the financial service sector doing great things. Please put your hands together for him. And we would like to recognize Dr. Adeyinka Hassan. He is a council member of CIOD and has double roles along the line by virtue of his relationship with all of this that we are putting together. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, we shall be starting this program. But I would like to remind us that we had a wonderful, wonderful learning yesterday, starting from the opening ceremony that had dignitaries from all over the public sector, the private sector, governance leaders and governance experts who took us through on a journey on how governance is important. And the most remarkable and exponential was a keynote that took our minds around what is extremely the pillars for success for our great nation, Nigeria. And we cannot discount those very rich, robust learning that prepares all of us as leaders to take back into our organizations and then do exceedingly great things. The first plenary on governance was very fantastic. It reminded us of the role of governance, reminded us of our roles in leadership. It also instituted the learning around the need for governance, for accountability, for trust, for integrity, for molding other leaders and then building succession as well as longevity while institutionalizing. And that was such a profound one. Another very interesting and exciting one for me was the artificial intelligence, governance and artificial intelligence. We do know how everyone is playing around with AI tool one way or the other, but what was most profound about that panel was reminding us that there should be governance strategy for AI. So board directors are not just supposed to be excited that their organizations are aligned with AI, but the biggest question is, do you really and indeed have a governance strategy around AI? When I tell you what, so many organizations don't think about that. When people, almost everybody is jumping into meetings with different note takers and different applications, in 5 meetings, 10 different people have different note takers. It means no strategy around it. What about the risk that it brings? It reminded us about even as great as artificial intelligence is, it's also got a lot of risk. And there's so much that was brought to light as we embrace artificial intelligence, the issues around data protection, but there was so much learning, I must say. What that tells us, there would be a whole lot of learning today. But before we go into today's learning, I would like to bring back on stage someone who has worked extremely well in preparing our learning and would consolidate much more. But for now, as rapporteur of this program, he would give us more insight about the journey where we're coming from, as we set the foundation for the future. And so I'd like to call on Dr. Adeyinka Hazan, the managing partner of H. Michaels Consulting, to please come up and give us a recap from yesterday. Please put your hands together for him as he steps back up.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I believe Dr. Chizo did a fantastic job. I didn't think I needed to do anything. However, since she has called me, then I will proceed. So the third National Corporate Governance Summit 2026, governance as the engine of economic acceleration, a recap. I'm going to start with the order of proceeding. So the program was divided basically into 3 sessions: the opening ceremony, first plenary, and the second plenary session. The opening ceremony started at about 10:16 a.m. and we finished at 2:15 p.m. The first plenary session started at 2:30 p.m. and we finished at 3:30 p.m. The panelists were quite good with time. The second plenary session started immediately after the first. It started at 3:31 p.m. and we finished at 4:25 p.m. The opening ceremony set the tone for the event. The summit was declared open by the Vice President, the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, ably represented by Dr. Tokwe Fashua. The theme of the summit is implementing corporate governance for economic acceleration, consolidating public and private sector partnership. It was observed that governance formed a strategic tool rather than a regulatory obligation. The opening ceremony examined the expected role of government and the expected role of private sector. For government, government is meant to provide transparent, predictable regulation, maintain policy stability across administrations, deliver reliable infrastructure, build and sustain accountable institutions, support the Ministry of Finance, Incorporated, and other governance-minded public bodies. And as for the private sector is expected to demonstrate ethical leadership at board and management level, maintain full regulatory compliance, invest in innovation and productivity, practice financial discipline and transparent reporting, partner with government on national development priorities. Now, the opening ceremony equally examined why enterprises fail in Nigeria. This was bordered on governance quality. It was observed that it is not ownership structure that makes organizations fail. The core argument was that many corporate and state-owned enterprises failure in Nigeria stem from weak governance, insider abuse, poor compliance, and inadequate oversight. Government ownership itself was not identified as the underlying cause. Example was given of some thriving government-owned organization and the recent project. There is a $13 trillion project in China, and an example of the project that Mufi is also handling in Nigeria, in Kano, was also referenced, and this is to show that what is causing governance failure is not the presence of government in state-owned enterprises. Government ownership in itself is not identifiable as an underlying cause. The implication offered, better governance, non-automatic privatization, is the first remedy to explore. Well-governed public enterprises elsewhere were cited as proof, as I mentioned earlier, for the 13 trillion project in China. So what are the emerging priorities and sector practice? Oversight of artificial intelligence, cybersecurity and data governance, responsible digital transformation, board diversity and gender inclusion, integration of environmental, social, and governance consideration into corporate strategy, all flagged for inclusion in the ongoing review of the Nigerian Code of Corporate Governance. Example was also given of the insurance sector and the presidential initiative on compressed natural gas. In conclusion, the major governance challenge facing Nigeria is not the absence of laws, codes, or institutions. It is weak and inconsistent implementation of frameworks that already exist. So what that basically says is that all these frameworks exist, but there is no implementation. So the action point for the opening ceremony is that there has to be stronger institutions, improved state-owned enterprises, higher value exports, increased investment, job creation, and sustainable economic growth. We thereafter move to the first plenary session. The sub-theme for the first plenary session borders on deepening corporate governance and unlocking the full potentials of state-owned enterprises. The session was moderated by Ms. Tinu Awe, Chief Executive Officer, TMSN Limited. And the keynote address for the session was presented by Professor Sunday Olabi. So Professor Olabi identified the challenges facing Nigerian state-owned enterprises. Some of these challenges highlighted were political interference in enterprise management, weak and poorly constituted boards, corruption, poor accountability, flawed processes for selecting enterprise leadership, limited transparency, inadequate risk management systems. The panel was composed of representatives from both private and the public sector. And the panelists all converged and agreed that government as owner should be separated from board as the governor, meaning that government should actually not interfere with the governance of these state-owned enterprises. So government should define ownership objectives, appoint competent board members, set and monitor performance expectations, protect the broader public interest. While on the other hand, for the board as a governor, board should set strategy, exercise risk oversight, allocate capital, manage talent, and deliver operational performance. So the panelists argued that confusion between these two roles, particularly government's intrusion into matters that should belong to an independent board, is a major structural cause of poor state-owned enterprises performance in Nigeria. So what are the evidences and the necessary implementation? It was agreed that written policy alone cannot guarantee good outcomes. What genuinely protects management and boards is discipline, implementation, ongoing monitoring, advice enforcement, and clear escalation procedures. Non-executive directors recommended as the formal channel for raising owners' concern. And the panel dovetailed to the fact that informal political pressure on management should be replaced with defined governance protocols. I'm going to go to the second, sorry, before I do that, I will do the conclusion of the first plenary session. The panelists close with one word each: productive, effective governance, responsiveness. And these words are what we should be looking ahead in terms of corporate governance in Nigeria and state-owned enterprises In closing, the panelists agreed that improved state-owned enterprises governance will reduce the shock of policy change for ordinary Nigerians by building transparency, accountability, and public trust. The second plenary session that started at 3:31 p.m. Has the sub-theme as strategic role of corporate governance in artificial intelligence adoption and digital transformation. This session was chaired by Dr. Femi Oyenuga, and the keynote address was given by the DG, National Information Technology Agency, NIDA, Mr. Kashifu Inua Abdullahi, ably represented by Mr. Abdullahi Yusuf. 5 corporate responsibilities were identified for artificial intelligence adoption. First, that we should establish governance structures with clear executive oversight and accountability. Secondly, develop internal and external adoption strategies aligned with NIDA's roadmap. 3, ensure data quality and responsible data management. 4, build AI literacy across the organization from board members to non-technical staff. And 5, institute robust risk management tailored to AI-specific risk. So, the issue raised repeatedly across the panel discussion are: 1, AI literacy as a board baseline should describe as competency that can no longer be delegated away by directors. Direct comparison drawn to the now standard expectation of basic financial literacy apply to all directors, not only those with a technical background. The panel also examined the data exposure. I mean, it is not enough just to be talking about AI adoption, but when you put information about organization on available public AI, then it exposes your data to risk. So the panel concluded that there should be human accountability. In spite of the fact that we are preaching AI adoption, we should also infuse the necessity for human accountability. And the panel also looked at how Nigeria Data Protection Regulator is responding to AI adoption. So there is a shift from an earlier phase focused on awareness building and capacity development, and now moving towards a phase of stricter, more active enforcement. Enforcement intensify expected to grow progressively as AI-specific regulation matures. What are the key learning instruments referred to in the course of the panel discussion? General application and implementation of Directive GAID 2025, Article 43, and also Nigerian Data Protection Act, NDPA Act 2023. It was observed that about 90% of boards frame their AI questions narrowly around operational efficiency, such as reducing cost of cutting head count, rather than around creating entirely new markets. Now, multi-stakeholder oversight. No single actor, corporation, government, or civil society can alone ensure AI benefits, and effective governance requires all three to act as checks on one another. The Nigerian factor. The Nigerian patterns of AI usage and ingenuity differ from the United Kingdom, North America, and Asia. So foreign governance framework cannot be transplanted without meaningfully considering local adoption. And the plenary session concluded that strong corporate governance paired with appropriate regulations, genuine artificial intelligence, competence, and ethical leadership is what allows AI to strengthen rather than undermine institutional trust and drive Nigeria's digital transformation. However, certain matters are still left unclarified, and this include whether the proposal to appoint a chief artificial intelligence officer is a best practice recommendation or should be tied to an existing or future regulatory requirement remains unresolved. Also, expanding existing governance structure rather than creating new machinery like audit committee mandates, should be broadened to explicitly cover algorithmic automation and bias risk. So the same governance formula reoccurs across all the 3 sessions. Clear accountability is required, independent oversight is required, enforcement over documentation and measurement by outcomes. In conclusion, it was agreed that Nigeria is not short of governance codes, strategy or regulatory instrument. What has been missing is consistent enforced implementation and a willingness to measure institutions by outcomes rather than intention. The challenge this summit leaves with every participant is that, the challenge this summit leaves with every participant is that we should take into consideration every discussion that had been agreed to our various boardrooms, ministries, regulatory bodies, and convert them into measurable action before the next summit, and ask ourselves what has changed. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's ask ourselves, what has? What has? Thank you. All right. As we slide into the first plenary for today, I'd just like to remind us that due to the delayed start, we're running short of some minutes, and significant number of minutes for that matter. So we're trying to set the ground rules for time management today. We didn't do extremely well yesterday, but we want to compensate for that. Before I introduce the next plenary, I would just like to urge that the deliberations around that plenary, as stated here, it's supposed to run for an hour, 20 minutes. Would like to keep it to an hour. And so that means we'd keep very concise the plenary presentation, would keep very concise the plenary moderation, just so that the audience would also have the opportunity to ask questions and do the engagements that we missed out sometime yesterday. Are we on one page? Super, thank you. I'd like to introduce this next plenary, and I would like to start by introducing the moderator for that plenary. The moderator for that plenary is Mr. Olufemi Aweyemi, MNI, and he is the founder and chairman of Proshare Nigeria Limited. The plenary theme is integrating corporate governance and achieving robust financial inclusion, the role of financial institutions. Please put your hands together for Mr. Aweyemi as he comes. Center stage, anywhere that you want to be is fine, Mr. Aweyemi. Anywhere is fine. You can take center stage so you can direct your questions to the left or to the right. Okay, all right, that's great. And you would also take the liberty of inviting your, yes, you can have this one.
All right, thank you very much. Do you have the mic? Okay, yeah, the mic is there. Good morning. Thank you very much for having me here. So I'll be speaking here with the nicest Queen's English, not for your purpose, but for the purposes of the recording, so that when it is shown, it will show me in a very good light. So on that basis, therefore, I was hoping you would laugh. No, not the clap. The clap often distracts. On the basis, therefore, let me acknowledge the fact that I take this assignment very seriously. I see a number of very distinguished Nigerians here. I will just go straight to the fact that I would introduce the panelists. We'll go straight into the subject matter. I will try to leave you enriched more than disturbed so that we can move quickly to the other assignments. Permit me, therefore, to introduce Mrs. Eno Atuebi, CFA, the MD and Chief Investment Officer of Value Alliance Asset Management, and a serving non-executive director. Her institutional, investor, and boardroom lens will be useful in this process. Permit me, therefore, to invite Mrs. Atuebi. Well, if she's not here, she probably would join us later. Next is Mr. Promise Nwako, the President and CEO of Financial Inclusion Platform and former CFO and CCO at Asion Microfinance Bank. His 3 decades of frontline microfinance experience will be useful in helping us understand what actually reaches women, rural informal sector customers, and the accountability that keeps inclusion honest. Please kindly help me welcome Mr. Promise Nwako. Next is the only other Ig that is not the Ig we know. But my dear brother, I will say, Ig Mokwede, the President Fund Managers Association of Nigeria and former MD of Coronation Asset Management. The asset and fund management industry's pioneer. Mobilizing long-term domestic capital into inclusive finance within fiduciary limits will be helpful for us. Kindly help me welcome the one and only Ike. Ike, drop your bag. You still carry bag all this way. Come and sit. No, Ike, come and sit close to me. I will change my seat. Last but not the least is Dr. Haruna Musa, the MD and CEO of Jais Bank, and a doctorate holder in Islamic banking and finance. And most people may not know, Jais Bank was the first ever pioneer in terms of the Islamic finance industry in Nigeria, and his representative's perspective will help us in understanding how they reach populations and they're excluded on religious and ethical grounds, and not just on the Sharia governance that's sustainable. Please kindly help me welcome the representative, Dr. Haruna Musa. Permit me, those in charge of the protocol have finally responded to my English donations. They have informed me, therefore, that Mrs. Eno Atuebi will be replaced by Mr. Vivo. I can't pronounce the surname. It sounds more foreign, but it's almost like Hopun Wusinu, which is almost like from my relatives from Badagry. The managing partner of Wuho Capital. Kindly join us here. Oh, I know you. No, don't go and sit on the stream, since you. Please sit down here. On this note, we'll just go ahead and address the subject matter. Thank you very much. Do you all have your mics close to you? You have one. Madam, do you have one close to you? You have one close to you. Madam, I don't want to. Okay. So the man is right. I will pass mine to him so that I want Madam to have hers. So you don't have to be. Oh. one of the few disadvantages of trying to be very fast with time is that you can actually lose the momentum. Having established the panelists here present, it is my joy to actually ask that before we start, therefore, we would have to listen to the keynote speaker in the person of the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, Mr. Philip Ikezo, who is ably represented by none other than one of our very senior colleagues in the profession, Dr. Rakia Yusuf. I know that she's been waiting to get go. I saw her, but I did not know how to manage, how to introduce myself to her. You know, nowadays that the love of the central bank is the beginning of wisdom. So Dr. Rakia Yusuf, we left you for the last for a very good reason. Please, can you give her a round of applause? She's one of our most respected senior colleagues in the industry, and she has an interesting perspective to share with us. Permit me if I just move the thing so that the members here can actually listen to you. If you just help me. And,
You know, when Prof is trying to set me on the stage, I really don't want to know whether I can escape from here today as the little woman in the midst of many men, ensuring that
this is just for you to let you know that she's my boss.
ensuring that you can sit down in your bedroom and make your payments and be sure that it will reach what? Destination. That's the role that I have in the Central Bank of Nigeria. But today I'm actually here on behalf of my boss, the Deputy Director, Economic Policy, Mr. Ikezo, who really wanted to be here, but drafted me all the way from UK yesterday to be able to be here with you because he considered this gathering very important to him. And since he has a higher call, as you know, the MPC is ongoing, and he has that higher call and many other calls. And then he said I should come here and deliver his message on a very topical, interesting subject matter. So I just want to especially appreciate the most important entities when governance is being spoken about. The leadership of those entities, because already my dear friend and sister, Dr. Malize, had established protocol, but I cannot start this delivery of this message without really appreciating the leadership of IOD, the leadership of MOFI, and the leadership of ICSAN, my own professional organization that has given us platform to keep on ensuring that governance practice is indeed top-notch. So, Mr. Eke, the MFR, Chairman, Board of Governance, IOD. I hope IOD is supposed to have inducted me many years ago. Maybe before I leave here, IOD will adopt me. Thank you. Dr. Armstrong, my very dear friend, my brother, the man that is revitalizing Murphy. Murphy was moribund until his leadership. Yes. We hardly know the assets of Nigeria. as a nation. You know, Nigeria is a nation. It is a living nation, and it must have assets and liability. I'm very much aware through my son-in-law who works with you, Bashir, how much people are doing. Thank you for the good work you are doing for the Nigeria. And my dear sister, Mrs. Okpanachi, thank you, ma, for leading from the front, not from behind. You are leading Exxon as the president, and we admire you and will support you. Thank you. Very distinguished panelists, other distinguished members present here, I will be reading the speech of my boss. If I make mistake, please hold me responsible. And if it is good, then give the credit to my boss. And the subject says, integrating corporate governance in achieving robust financial inclusion. As you are aware, we have a $1 trillion dream economy by year 2030. And financial inclusion is one subject matter that can take us there because of its relevance to the SME. You know, I hear when the wrap-up of yesterday was being delivered, so much was spoken about how we can have a strong institution rather than a strong individual. And if we are leaving a critical number out of the discussion, then we are far away from achieving that. The role of financial institutions, that is the scope here. And it's a plenary session paper by the Deputy Governor, Economic Policy, Central Bank of Nigeria. Now, the theme says, implementing good governance for economic acceleration, consolidating public and private sector partnership. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, indeed I am pleased to join this important summit on a subject central to Nigeria's development, building trusted, well-governed institutions that can extend opportunity to every citizen and businesses. I commend the covenants for creating timely public-private dialogue. Access opens the door to finance. Governance keeps the door open and the system safe and the customer protected. The summit theme is timely and practical. Nigeria needs broad-based and sustainable growth. But such growth cannot be achieved where households and businesses remain outside safe, affordable, and useful services, or where innovation moves faster than responsibility. Financial inclusion is more than open accounts, agents deployed, or transactions completed. We have over 5 million agents around Nigeria. We're asking, what next? True inclusion exists when people can confidently use financial services that are affordable, suitable, reliable, and safe. That's inclusion that improves their ability to earn, save, invest, withstand shocks, and participate in economy. Corporate governance turns this ambition into institution-wide discipline. It sets direction. It assigns responsibility. It strengthens risk control. It protects customers and governs technology and data. Permit me to mention, we issued a circular recently expecting and directing financial institutions to ensure data sovereignty, data localization. And you know that Nigeria is not excluded from what is happening in the global space. Nigeria's financial landscape has changed greatly. Mobile phones everywhere, instant payments, bank agents, mobile money, fintech platform, and digital identity have taken services closer to households and businesses. The FINA's number in 2023 survey shows that formal financial inclusion rose from 56% in 2020 to 64% in 2023. That number has also improved to 74%, but because it's not yet published, I didn't capture in this paper. But the Central Bank of Nigeria has an ambition of achieving 95%. And a number of circulars, policies have been issued to that effect. Yet, with these numbers, access does not always translate into regular use, trust, or financial security. Some customers use accounts only occasionally. Others remain dependent on cash because services are unreliable, expensive, difficult to understand, or undermined by fraud, failed transactions, and unresolved complaints. The unfinished work is therefore clear. Nigeria must move from access to meaningful use, from product availability to positive customer outcome, especially for women, persons with disability, internally displaced persons, micro and small medium-term enterprise. This paper therefore argues that corporate governance and financial inclusion must reinforce each other. Governance must provide disciplines, accountability, and resilience, while inclusion gives growth, wider reach, deeper participation, and stronger social value. Robust financial inclusion and governance imperative entails that financial inclusion means that adult Nigerians should have easy access to a broad range of formal financial services that meet their needs. The key words here are easy access, broad range, and that meet their needs. So therefore, robust inclusion must go beyond account ownership. Financial institutions must internalize this, that it's not about onboarding customers. It is about a suitable service that is within the reach, including the rural and the underserved. Permit me to say that we are aware that Lagos and other major cities are where the agents are, and the central bank frown at this. Affordability, that is, charges are fair. They are clear. They are proportionate to the customer's income and transaction. So while you are onboarding, you should have this at the back of your mind. Usefulness, that the products solve a real need, payments, savings, credit, insurance, and pension. Yesterday, I have a young woman who spoke to me about a subject that I was passionate with. They have developed an app to take measurement of your clothes. You know, one of the problems we have, the tailoring in Nigeria, is that there's no precision in the way they come out with the fabric that we wear. And so we tend to take, to go to other nations because the product is not fit for what purpose. So an app has been designed to be able to take this precision up. As soon as you said a shoulder is 24, then it gives you the statistics. That is the AI that you were speaking about a while ago. So I quickly called one of the fintech to take that and see how they can support them. So we're talking about reliability, safety, fairness, capability, and positive outcome. Corporate governance gives financial inclusion strategic discipline by embedding it in the institution's core business model. The role of the board carries ultimate responsibility for institutional direction, and we're all here to do that. It gives us the ability to direct the conduct and the sustainability of that. It gives us the enablement to provide a product design that is suitable for Nigerian economy. The board is expected to align culture and incentive with customers' welfare. You are expected to have an automated tool for credit, fraud detection, or profiling so that you can have a tested and unbiased outcome. The management is also there, and the control functions. Don't mind me, he's warning me that I have a lot to tell you, but he's moderating me here. Prof has the stage. But let me speak about what we need to do around risk management. We've got to ensure that inclusion initiative we should have it at the back of our mind that they could fail or harm outcome if we are not taking risk management proactively serious. Compliance should ensure that the product meets regulatory and conduct requirements. Internal audit, usually postmortem, but very impactful, should independently test whether stated control works in practice. The company secretary should ensure that the board receive complete and timely information and that the decisions and follow-up actions are properly recorded. Responsible innovation, I don't want to speak much about that. Customer protection as an inclusion strategy is very important. I have about 10 of them here. Disclosure, disclosure, disclosure are the key elements of transparency. Key terms and risks before the customer submit. Obtain meaningful consent and protect personal data, which the circular I did mention earlier on was intended to achieve. Make complaints channels easy to find and use, including for customers without smartphone. CBN has a robust framework on consumer protection directive. Resolve failed transactions and complaints within clear timelines. These are all regulatory induced. Monitor fraud patterns and warn customers in simple language. Learn from complaints and publish clear internal accountability for repeated failure. I think Financial Reporting Council is also part of this team. I have to take the issue about disclosure in the audited financial statement. It has to be taken serious. So, where do we have convergence? Governance and public authorities identify, connect, enable law, social payment programs, and public infrastructure. CBN and other regulators are expected to provide clarity, consistency, risk-based oversight, regulatory cooperation, and timely enforcement. Financial institutions should go about the business of having responsible boards. This is one thing even my department is focusing. We are strengthening the corporate governance of the fintechs because they have now occupied very significant position in our ecosystem. So responsible board, fair conduct, resilience, transparency, and accountability for all the partners. And the telco also have their duty here. What about the professional bodies? Research, education, standards, independent feedback, and support for excluded group must be deliberate. So evidence-based advocacy, transparency, and constructive engagement is all that we desire. Let me just conclude because the paper is already with the discussants, so they will be able to take important decisions. So in conclusion, Nigeria's next leap in financial inclusion will not be secured by access alone. It will be secured by trust, discipline, and accountability. Strong corporate governance is therefore not a constraint on inclusion. It is a framework that makes inclusion safe, credible, and sustainable. The responsibility is shared, but it must be clearly owned. Boards must set direction and demand evidence of real customer outcome. Management must execute with integrity. Control function must challenge, assure, and escalate. Regulators must enable innovation while enforcing discipline. Public and private institutions must collaborate on infrastructure, data, protection, and trust. If we get governance right, financial inclusion will become more than account ownership. It will become a pathway to stronger households, more resilient businesses, wider opportunity, and deeper participation in Nigeria's productive economy. That is the promise we must now convert into measurable results. My closing thoughts, my DG's closing thought, not me. When I say mine, it's my DG. The true test of financial inclusion is not just whether a citizen can enter the financial system, but whether the system treats that citizen fairly, whether it works when needed and helps the citizen move forward. And together we can all make that happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would not take too much of our time. Since paper would also be made available to participants and also to members watching us online, let me take the benefit of having this very esteemed panelists go straight to the point. My opening contest, having had a chance to read a report, is to say that financial inclusion and corporate governance are two expressions of one single problem. It is the problem of trust. Our session today is a subset of the larger conversation. So, but there are two major concerns for which I would like for each and every one of you to give your opening thoughts, including the speaker speaking directly. Well, that is not my problem. That's a technology problem. But apologies. Let me go back to it. I said financial inclusion and corporate governance are two expressions of one problem. It's a question of trust. The Institute of Directors as a whole has always addressed that and believe very certainly that no economy grows on a foundation of what? Mistrust. These esteemed panelists would give us their opening thoughts. I will just manage to go through a second round of questions to interrogate those thoughts of theirs, and then we'll quickly summarize and also hope that they can direct specific questions to the CBN. In order to guide your thoughts, and I see Dr. Nwako looking at me very seriously, is that there are so few things I would like to say. One, the Nigerian state actually delivers what you call necessary social intervention, but there is a disconnect between that social intervention and the financial architecture in terms of sustainability. There is one. But every time we talk about financial inclusion, therefore, I think we also assume that exclusion means that people do not have access. But the real problem with financial inclusion is that the financial inclusion does not come with any guardrails or any protections for anyone entirely. And since the owners of this platform also includes people like Mofi, and we are talking about the public-private trust, I think it is also important to also address the larger question about what Nigeria owns, what it owes, and how do we establish trust within our own financial system in building financial inclusion for the whole legacy of Nigeria. And on that note, permit me therefore to start in a simple order by going to Ike, and then we move closer. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Um, can you hear me? No excuse for you. Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. I'm extremely happy to be here. Financial inclusion is a hot topic for me and also for the Fund Managers Association. It's a very necessary thing for us to get to the last mile and be able to create democratized wealth for our citizenry to ensure that everybody can eat bread in the morning. Having said that, at the end of the day, there's no financial inclusion without financial literacy. Let's understand that and the importance of financial literacy. Now, look at it from a point of view of the asset management industry. We've seen a lot of growth. Our AUM now stands at 9.3 trillion. We've grown about 18% this year. Unit holders, we are now at 1.9 million. We've seen a 40% growth this year. Number of funds, 232. And number of fund managers, portfolio managers, about 267, of which 60 of which are managing funds. Now, I remember once I was speaking at the Ministry of Justice event, judges event. And I said that no matter how much we boast about these things, it took CBEX a year and a half to achieve what it took us 10 years to achieve in fund managers. Before we broke 1 trillion, it took us over 10 years. These guys broke 1.3 trillion naira in what, about 13 months or 14 months. And that's why I like to speak to financial literacy and the role that we all have to play within. I do know that the regulators at Central Bank of Nigeria, the SEC, are doing a lot of work around that, but there's a lot to be done. Now, I don't know. So for us, we know that the growth that we see, the exponential growth we now see, though we can do much better when we see the pension numbers, is really around partnerships. And the growth that we expect to see is around partnerships. Partnerships with the banks, partnerships with the fintechs, partnerships with the MFBs. And that is actually the way to go last mile. But we have to take it across everything we've spoken to. Permit me, and I'm not booting Coronation now, but at Coronation we have what we call Learn, Play, and Invest. So we have the Investment Academy, which is a digital investment platform. We have the Fantasy League, which is a risk-free gamified platform for trading on the Ncgs. And of course, we then have an app. And these are means to get to where you want to get to. But then having said that, I know that at the end of the day, and this is why I started with CBEX, at the end of the day, the structures that we have as fund managers means that we ensure that your funds are kept with a custodian. And for that reason, we ensure that your funds are safe. And so we have to be able to ensure that while ensuring that our fiduciary responsibilities are kept, we must ensure that they are kept within us and not within our last mile partners, whether they are banks, whether they are microfinance banks, whether they are financial technology fintechs. We must ensure that we maintain that last mile. We must ensure that the particularly the bottom of the pyramid, as we like to call them, can get, they have the trust in us and in our systems so that when they need their money, they get it. All right? Now, in treating the partnerships that I'm speaking to, we have to treat them as a formal outsourcing delegation, and we have to do the due diligence to match, which means that we have to ensure that if we follow through to the last mile, we have to ensure that the segments to which our products are going to, we understand them, we understand their behavior, we understand when they need to come in and when they need to come out. Because everything to do with financial inclusion it primarily begins with trust. And if we do not have that, you can imagine a man on the street coming and saying, okay, I want to take my 500 naira. And you're telling them, no, I can't take it now. So we have to understand how to de-risk and put people in their risk buckets. The institutional investors' mannerism is totally different from that of a market woman who wants her money. And so we have to understand these things. We have to understand how we behave there. And also, we have a 3-tiered KYC. Okay. We have no time. Okay, no problem. Please. We'll come back.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Viavo Huponusu, Managing Partner of Blackstone Legal Advisory and Director with Woodhall Capital. I will very quickly tackle this issue from a different perspective. I am first and foremost a lawyer, so we advise boards. And when we're talking about financial inclusion and the last mile, as it were, of banking, what that comes down to ultimately is confidence. And why I say confidence is because every financial institution runs on confidence. The banks need to be able to have confidence in their borrowers. And that's the only reason why they will lend. And the borrowers, the average man on the street, has to have confidence in the financial institutions. That is why they'll put their money in those financial institutions. So when we're looking at financial inclusion, the perspective I would like to look at it from is one of corporate governance. And when it comes down to it, what corporate governance is not a nice to have, it is a strategic advantage. Because any financial institution that lacks corporate governance, in the end, what that means is people would lack confidence in the financial institution. And this me just giving it a very summarized version. But in effect, what you have is fundamentally, investors will invest in a business because they have confidence in the business. DFIs, development financial institutions, will invest in countries because they have confidence in the infrastructure, in the financial infrastructure of the countries. Institutional investors will also invest in projects, in businesses, in PPPs, because they have confidence. So everything hinges on the confidence that the counterparties have in the other institution, and this is what gives rise to the ability for capital to move, for investments to move, and for businesses to thrive. It comes down to one thing: confidence. Now, your average man on the street, and I'll take this from a slightly different perspective. There are about almost 30 million adults that are not included in the financial system in Nigeria, which means there's a significant proportion of people who are not banked.
So,
And
Vevo, I'm going to have to stop you. I'm going to
Okay,
make sure
I'll
that
just-
we make all these
I'll
comments
just give
very
one more
fast. That's why I'm standing up, because the
Indeed,
mic is with you.
indeed. I'll just give one more point.
Yeah.
So even though the number of unbanked has reduced, it's gone from 28% to 16%, but the confidence that these people have in the financial institution has equally reduced. So you have higher people being banked, but they have lower trust. And this, to be able to bridge that gap, ultimately we need to improve the corporate governance structure, framework within the financial institutions and indeed the larger financial industry. Thank you.
Thank you. You may pass the mic to Salamatu Shedu, the Divisional Head of Corporate Business at Jais Bank. In order to manage time, I need us to be a bit more specific and to allow the audience to get the benefit of your experience. I think you should address the issue of the financial inclusion that within the general space, but most importantly, focus on the concept of corporate governance as it relates to how we are delivering on the public partnership, private partnerships, as you are, from your experience, and then I will move over to Mr. Promise Uwako.
Okay.
Just a short one so that I can then ask my questions.
Okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem. Good morning. My name is Salamati Shaidu. I'm the divisional head of corporate banking, Lagos business with Jais Bank. Looking at the financial inclusion for all non-interest banks, speaking on behalf of the all. Is it okay now? Right, so I will sort of speak on behalf of all the non-interest bank because that's what I'm here to represent. So financial inclusion is basically top of our agenda in the non-interest banking industry. I would just, because of time, I would just like give a practical analysis of what we have done to try to cover that space. What we've done in Jais Bank, because of how important financial inclusion it is to our banking, to what we're, based on the principle of what the bank is even from in the first place, is for economic development. What we did was, because we have more footfall down north, looking at it, we would say, sometimes when we discuss this, we say when we come to the south, we should be talking about financial exclusion. But when we go to the north, that's where that inclusion really comes up. We had a project that we're working on at Adwa. This is a local government that has 40 to 47% literacy level. What we did is to go down the lowest part of the pyramid. Initially, when we started, we now realized that account opening is just the first step. So people open account and there is no consistent usage and there was nothing, the impact was basically minimal. What we're able to do is just to bring up a product that is customer-centric. And with that, we went as low as giving 50,000. Basically, we focus on women, not gender bias, because we all know that the only set of gender you can give money and go back to sleep is just women, sincerely. So we started with a 50,000 because our goal is to look at economic activity. What did we do? We selected women, some women selling akara and all that. We're able to give them 50,000, 100,000. Honestly speaking, those women, we went with a complete bundle of products. Yes, which when we trace it back, it has to do with where you have a robust risk management, which all boils down to what type of governance structure your bank is using for you to be able to come to that. We're able to give them, what did we see? We saw a lot of women able to send their children to school. It just have this multiplier effect. Maybe it's selecting women in such projects sometimes is the best. And honestly speaking, why we concentrate on women, we exit the first cycle, the second cycle of the project, maybe our non-performance is less than 1%. That's how perfect it is. So we have escalated that. Apart from Adua, we've gone to various local governments down in the north, and we are also doing that. And with the partnership we had between us and the other financial, and now we have the Lotus, we have Taj Bank, we have various financial. So it's a discussion we are taking up, and a lot is being done in that sector. And every bank has their own governing structure in such a way that what has worked for us really, I would say, is still the corporate governance, because you cannot separate financial inclusion when you want it. You can't separate it from what type of governance do you have, because you have to formulate a product that is customer centric. You have to push it out. Those customers, all what they want is trust, and that's the trust we're able to get and Some of them, because it's like a phase, when we give you this amount in the first place, we upgrade you to the next, and it's a very fantastic project we've done. So sorry, I don't have time. Thank you.
Salamatu, thank you very much. At least you brought out a bit of laughter from everyone. So here's the major cruncher, and Mr. Promise Uwako, you know why I left you before going back to our esteemed Dr. Yusuf. Financial inclusion is not about opening an account. It's not about creating every other thing. The fund managers have spoken. The finance legal advisor has spoken. The operator has spoken. From your perspective, two questions, really. What is the governance framework within those institutions who are leading these financial inclusion goals itself? Second question, what is the challenge between the operator regulatory and customer matrix that creates the distortion? That as much as we try to, that's a problem with speaking in Queen's language. Let me repeat that. Is it the first question or the second question? Okay. Now, thank you for that, because that's the tactic in adding more time to myself, because we take all the other time away. So Mr. Promise Uwako is the CEO of the Financial Inclusion Group. We have listened to Ike, who spoke from the fund manager's perspective. We have listened to Vero, who spoke from a legal perspective in terms of how the structuring is done. We have listened to Salamatu, who spoke around the operator's activity. Now we are getting into the meat of it in terms of governance. Mr. Promise Uwako, you will lead, and Dr. Yusuf would try to provide a context to it. I've asked two questions. One, can you explain that what is the governance going on within these institutions represented by these three persons that enables us to have the confidence that when we are achieving financial inclusion, we are also not promoting exclusion? The second question is that the operator, regulator, customer matrix has seemingly had motion, but there has not been any concrete movement. The architecture has changed, but the governance has still remained almost the same. Please, can you provide insight for us so that Dr. Yusuf would therefore offer guidance on it, and then I can go back to this esteemed lady and gentleman. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for having me. And I would want to address the question from another perspective, which is what you spoke about when you were asking us this question. The problem of corporate governance and the problem of financial exclusion. If you look at the microfinance subsector, CBN has licensed over 1,400 microfinance banks, out of which over 700 are packed up with their licenses withdrawn. And what was the cause? Corporate governance issues. That's actually the problem, because most of these were very small institutions and then did not have enough capacity to have adequate support. And so they just opened up businesses like every other business. But financial services is not like that. And so they did not have proper risk management framework, proper governance and oversight, and the rest of that. So those institutions collapsed. And then, of course, the implication for that, the government intended that these institutions will provide financial access to rural dwellers, and then women and others that were excluded. But they could not fill the gap. They collapsed because they lacked corporate governance structure. And then, but on the other hand, we had very strong institutions, among them, especially the national microfinance banks, those that had international network, that had very strong corporate governance. And those institutions have as well grown over time. And today we have very strong MABs that are in the sector. And they are actually deepening financial inclusion. And I can tell you that, given from what the representative of CBN said, as at now we almost have 74% inclusion And I was privileged to be an NMB last week, a few months ago, and they had plans to set up branches in the north because they have been one of the foremost in the sector, and they have very strong they have a very strong corporate board made up of people from Nigeria and outside Nigeria. And we have similar institutions all over. Okay? So, and we can see also that what the fintechs have done in the last 4 years, they are the ones that have actually driven the financial inclusion across to the level where we are today. And I can assure you that from what I had the governor of CBN, the governor of CBN saying that they want over 90% inclusion in the next couple of years. And it's going to be achieved because the strategy which these fintechs are using, to the extent that today when you meet an average person, you say he has OP account, sorry to use that name, because they have gotten to a level where, because they have structure, they have governance, they have set up, they have strategy, and they have changed the face of financial inclusion actually in the system. So I think it's a progress that is rather being made in this direction, and we cannot rule out what CBN has done in terms of liberalizing this access, trying to promote financial inclusion with the launching of the National Financial Inclusion Strategy of 2012, the one they revised in 2018, and the 2022 revision. So they're actually positioned to do something, and I believe that CBN has been cooperating with these institutions, especially this fintech and the stronger MFBs in the sector, to ensure that the goal of financial inclusion is actually achieved.
Okay, so thank you very much for your kind comments. Permit me to go back to Dr. Yusuf, therefore. Is there a silver lining here? Most of the times when you come to conferences, it seems as if it's more like a come to Jesus moment where we confess all the things that have gone wrong in the country, and we never seem to understand that as we sit down here, a number of few things have changed. If you look at the age component here, we are in a particular generation that we may not see exactly those changes as it is occurring. My work allows me to see those different changes both in urban and rural areas. But the rate of change may not be the same. From a CBN perspective, and I know that having listened to the governor yesterday, there is a way in which you speak at the CBN, but for the purposes of those of us here, can you speak to us in lesser technical terms and explain to us, where do we see the silver lining? Where are those sandboxes and those changes that are occurring that we may take away from here? Thank you, ma'am.
Let me say it in simpler terms. And thank you for that question. The Central Bank of Nigeria at all times is there to protect the vulnerable. The Central Bank of Nigeria is the voice of the vulnerable. And every time we look at the lens of supervision in creating a financial system that is stable, and when we are doing that, we are not generous to the financial institutions when it comes to their bottom line, the profitability. If we're looking at the profitability, is with the lens of sustainability. But it's not with the lens of them making more money for the shareholders, but that they give responsible financial services that not only build wealth, but ensure that consumers are adequately taken care of. In terms of pricing of products, we have guide to bank charges. Because here, the currency we are all operating has to be around trust if you must drive financial inclusion. Trust in terms of resilience, how resilient are the institutions. Trust in terms of how affordable these financial services are, the products are. And trust in terms of the erosion that can happen around fraud and cybersecurity. So central bank is always looking at all these when we are approving products for financial institutions. We ask financial institutions to demonstrate that all these are factored into the product design and product issuance. But let me bring it back to the responsibility before the governance. The Central Bank of Nigeria, or even Central Bank of any world, any other jurisdictions within the world, cannot do what we call substantive tests. We can't see 100% of transactions, as they occur through. The central bank rely on structures that work. And the first structure is the board. And that's why we take time to approve proper persons, people who are fit and proper to run institutions. And we don't just do this, apart from looking at the credentials in terms of experience and academic qualifications, we also involve law enforcement agencies to speak about the credibility and the personality of individuals that lead these institutions. Now, if central bank have taken pain to ensure that you are fit and approve your approval to handle these institutions, and you neglect that role, you leave the institution's management to the management that do the day-to-day running of their institution, then the board has failed. Because the structure is already there, we expect you to have certain minimum committees that sit to review the processes and activities, set the tone, and ensure that your policies that you put in place as a board is being followed to the letter by the management. Now, if the board has failed to do this, it is not the central bank, but rather, and that's where I charge the professional bodies. Because many times we also rely on your membership of the professional bodies to even give the approval to individuals into the board. We also look at, like I said earlier on, the Financial Reporting Council that is also there. What is the quality of the audit that we put out? Are you looking at the circulars and the policies that are issued relating to the subject matter when you are approving the board, when you are approving the audit report? So these are some of the things, and I will kindly bring it back to the board, that the board have responsibility to be able to create and provide responsible oversight that ensure that our institutions are strong and resilient. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for the So, having listened to the CBN's perspective, permit me to therefore round up this way. I would make some comments arising from what Dr. Raki has said and the comments from my esteemed panelists, and then ask them to just give us not a long speech, but like a closing thoughts on the final thing, because our time is already up. And this is where I go off script. This is me speaking now, not IOD. 3 decades of doing this work have seen me understand that we operate what we call both the rule-based and the principles-based approach, right? And we often come to these conferences and we tell each other the nice things we need to say, and we stay in the safe places. But I stand before you here as somebody who is a victim of this particular system where I find no protection. Every now and then, I've had over 6 major incidents of where my name is used to raise funds. When Igboje mentions CBEX, he can mention 2 other companies' names for which I've also written to the central bank, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the NFIU, the AFCC, and every other system that I understand that works for us in terms of financial inclusion. I've had to shut down a number of my banking operations in order to protect myself. The system has no protection. I am just one example of many people who do not have voices. This system, as much as it encourages to have financial exposure, inclusion also creates exposure for you, for it does not have an architecture to protect you from. In order to be true to ourselves and in the spirit of proper governance, Governance is a two-way street. You raise the rules, you expect compliance. But there's also a swift to it. When we then raise the complaints, we expect a response. That street is dead. It is either non-existent or it does not operate as it should. For the sake of everyone here and to our sensibilities, therefore, permit me, therefore, to ask my distinguished guests in here, is there a way that you can just make a one-line comment for the IOD-CCG, which is a combination of the central bank, the financial reporting campus, the corporate secretaries? This is why we set it up, so that we can deal with the hard, difficult issues and then hope to create a governance architecture that is fit for the times, that is also fit for purpose. And if that is not the case, therefore, we may continue to have this kind of exchanges. On that note, therefore, permit me to start back again from I, and moving all the way to Dr. Rakia, and do not take too much time, because we've taken so much time already. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No time. Maybe what I should just say is, and it's been said and it will be continuously repeated, governance sets risk appetite, and this comes from the board of every institution. Weak governance shows up downstream. So in everything I try to speak to, weak governance shows up in mis-selling. Weak governance shows up in poor complaints handling. Weak governance shows up in agent fraud failures with the partnerships I was trying to speak to on the last mile. Good governance, obviously, the discipline of good governance is the trade-off between the speed of inclusion and the soundness of it. And so everything, as you rightly said, does fall to banks. However, having said that, within this industry, and I take nothing from the central bank and I take nothing from the SEC, but you are right that we need to have better regulatory oversight. Maybe as we start to move into AI, as we start to move into technology, and as we start to operate from a financial perspective in a digital-first manner, we also have to understand the regulatory tech that goes with it, and the manner in which it will lead to transparency that would get what we need from our investment, in fact, our populace. As you said, just 1 second, as you said, 65% of Nigerians are under 25. That's what we're going to deal with now. We have to understand what they need, and we have to give it to them.
Thank you. Vevo.
I think, from my perspective, I'll try and be very quick. Corporate governance hinges on confidence, but more importantly, it hinges on the effectiveness of those who are on the board. The powers that they have to be able to drive change, to be able to create a compliance framework that is able to act as an early warning signal and be able to be highlighted to the appropriate regulatory authorities that, look, we have a problem here. Indeed, your company secretary is the linchpin to that. Your company secretary is the person who ensures that the board has all the information they need to make independent advice and hold the management of the institution to account. But also, more importantly, especially for regulated institutions, the company secretary also ensures that if there's an issue, these can be flagged and addressed quickly before it becomes a systemic issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mine, I would just narrow it to our industry. Corporate governance is very, very important to us. If we look at the principle on which a non-interest bank Sharia compliance product is built upon, naturally, corporate governance is embedded in the DNA of, because you are looking at risk sharing. So for any investor that is willing to take profit, should always also be available to take the risk. So it's asset-based finance. We look at the socio-economic impact, because that's basically what this industry is all about. So And the CBN team, I hear, in fact, we've looked at it and say that in the financial sector, the way a non-interest bank is highly regulated, I don't think the other conventional banks are that regulated. We have the ACE, we have the phrase, we have the CBN. So our corporate governance has moved. Our board, basically, it starts from product formulation, because whatever we are doing, we have to make it customer-centric. And like she has said, all our products are being reviewed. So the governance structure, what is supposed to entail, how does it impact to the socio-economic development? How do customers, what's our, the new one they just brought up, what's our, how did they put it now? What's our, like at what point do we trigger if a product is not doing well in the market and we retrieve it? So for us in the non-interest bank, in terms of corporate governance is important, and the structure is properly put in place to ensure that customers have trust in the banking sector, everything is transparency, and there is that accountability. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my final word is still on having strong institutions, especially financial institutions. And that cannot be done without a very strong corporate governance and board. And CBN still has a greater role to play in this. They have to insist on having the right people in the board for the financial institutions at all times. Because if they have those rights, if they are very strict about who enters the board of these financial institutions, then it's going to result into having the right kind of people that will govern the institutions. That's where I ended.
Thank you very much. And on that note, I would like to thank our speaker and our distinguished discussants.
No lasting word for me.
When the CBN says they want the lasting word, who am I? Madam, go ahead.
Thank you very, very much. A very distinguished moderator. You see, the governor of Central Bank of Nigeria, Governor Olayemi Cardoso, is very deliberate in taking Nigeria's financial system to another level. And Nigerians can feel that already. Without blowing that too large, my department, the Payment System Supervision Department, is one of those initiatives that Mr. Olayemi Cardoso had taken by creating a standalone department, Payment System Supervision Department, last year. We actually took off March 2025. And he gave us a matching order because of his realization of the role payment system is to financial inclusion. Everyone is moving towards digital financial service delivery, including all the microfinance bank that was spoken about. And for Central Bank of Nigeria, it's not just innovative products. It's about responsible, innovative products that ensure the protection of the consumers. To add to this, a department, Consumer Protection Department, was also rechristened to be Consumer Protection and Financial Inclusion Department. All these are instruments of ensuring that we deepen the responsible financial service delivery. And let me tell the very important members of the governance structure in Nigeria. This is the right room to send this message, and that's why I pleaded for that. We are not taking board's role to take, we're not taking it to be at the last, take the last position where just attend meeting, maybe take a cup of tea and leave. We're actually moving to hold board responsible for any shortcomings of management. And very soon, because a lot is going on, very soon we'll be coming up with individual members of the board also being held accountable for the role that you play as a board member. So oversight is being strengthened. And the way we hold management, senior management accountable for some of the decisions they take, we're also moving towards holding the board responsible for the oversight that they provided. Thank you very much.
Thank you once again. I've been asked by the convener to request if there are any questions which has not been answered, which I believe. Are there any questions you would like to ask? Just one or two. And thankfully, no. If you are thinking about it, don't do it unless you are convinced. And I saw your hand with the glasses, so that's why I said you were, no, don't do that unless you, okay, so in the absence of any question, I've received a question here, which I may just ask. And I don't need an answer if you choose not to, but here's the question. If you're really truly sincere about dealing with the boards, not only are there instances where you would know that there are persons who are not fit for purpose in PLCs, but there are also companies who are operating for which the entity itself is not fit for purpose. There is a reason why it is easier to sell a scam than to sell a legitimate business in this country. And so on that note, permit me therefore to bring this session to a close. Thank you very much. Over to you.
Thank you. Such an amazing panel. I think the robustness and richness of this panel is incredible. Private sector, public sector, regulators, issuing banks, and plenty of discussions. I would like to invite Mrs. Uto Upana, President of ICSAN, to give us the gratitude to this very wonderful team.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, the energy is even lower today than yesterday. We can do much better. Do we need to stand up a little bit before we say thank you? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Much better. Let us try to keep the energy up today. I see the bright smiles. I see the smiles are spreading. And I see that the two chief smilers, if I may name us that, are in the room. So the smiles should spread today. And even after we leave, the smiles take that back because that is our appreciation. And so once again, I want to thank this panel, incredible panel. In fact, our moderator, please applaud him. For those of you who are avid users and readers on the information on ProShare, you now know why it is so interesting. And I just didn't know what he would say the next moment. And so I was so deeply engaged, even when he told the story of his experience, very candid, and that's what we want at these sessions. So once again, thank you very much for keeping us engaged. And please, your King's English, as it is now, passed the test. So thank you. Please let's applaud him one more time. So thank you, Mr. Olufemi Awoyemi, for connecting the dots throughout the session. Also, in no particular order, we heard the regulator, we heard the banks, the financial institutions' perspective. We heard the voice of the users and those who are actively involved in the financial ecosystem. And it continues to be an ongoing conversation. Like we heard today, this is the best room to pass this message because all of us are one way or the other. I don't think there's anybody who still digs a hole and puts their money. And so whatever, I heard that. So we use various channels and we're all interested parties and stakeholders in this ecosystem and value chain. So thank you very much for sharing your perspectives. On behalf of the conveners, we want to express our deep appreciation to all of you for sharing your perspectives, for also triggering questions that will we need to think about as we go about various businesses, whether we're in the public sector, private sector, the not-for-profit sector as well. And indeed, as the financial services continues to evolve, there are opportunities and there are issues that need to be addressed. So once again, thank you to all of you for participating. And I believe just before you go, I believe there are plaques to be presented. First to Mr. Olufemi Awoyemi. Mr. Haruna Musa. Oh, representing Mr. Haruna Musa. Mr. Promise Nwankwo, thank you so much. Mr. Philip Ikeazo, representing our eminent member, Dr. Rekia.
Yeah, they will do so. Let them take it. When they're done, we'll do it on stage. Because all these ones with this background doesn't tell anything. Look at the back. Look at where we sit. We'll just use style and go there before thanking them.
My voice will do a better job. My voice, okay, David, is there. He will do a better job. David, take a better one. Let us stay together.